The first body was discovered on October 12, 1997, in the abandoned Majestic Theatre on Hollowbrook's outskirts. Eleanor Grant, a 34-year-old librarian, lay center stage, her limbs suspended by thin nylon strings anchored to the rafters. Her face, frozen in a scream, was tilted upward, as though addressing an invisible puppeteer. A forensic sweep revealed no fingerprints, no DNA, only a small wooden token etched with the letter A clutched in her hand. 2 weeks later, construction workers found the second victim, 28-year-old Damien Cole, a reclusive mechanic, strung up in a similar pose inside a derelict barn. The token in his palm bore the letter B. By the third victim, Mira Chen, a 19-year-old art student displayed in a church confessional, the pattern was undeniable. Each victim was selected with surgical precision. No shared social circles, no geographic overlap, no discernible motive. The only connections were the strings, the tokens, and the suffocating silence of a killer who left no trace. Early investigations faltered under the weight of contradictions. The victims' backgrounds were disparate. Eleanor was a church volunteer. Damien had a history of petty theft. Mira was a transient college dropout, yet their deaths shared an eerie symmetry. The strings, forensics confirmed, were identical, industrial-grade nylon sold nationwide. The tokens, however, were hand-carved from cherrywood, a detail that led Voyle to local artisans. None recognized the craftsmanship. The killer's taunting escalated. After Mira's murder, a postcard arrived at the police station, a vintage image of the Majestic Theatre, its marquee reading, Act 3 Finale. The message, typed on a 1930s Underwood machine, read, "Every puppet dances until the strings snap." FBI profiler Dr. Lila Mercer joined the task force, dissecting the killer's psyche through his performances. The stage poses, she argued, weren't about humiliation. They were about control. The strings symbolized domination, the tokens a cryptic ranking system. "This isn't a rage killer," Mercer stated. "He's an orchestrator. He sees himself as a director, and the victims as actors in his private play." Serial killers often fall into typologies: organized, disorganized, mixed. This one defied categorization. The lack of sexual assault, the absence of trophies, except the tokens, and the sterile crime scenes suggested a highly disciplined mind. Mercer hypothesized a perpetrator with a mundane facade, a middle-aged man, likely employed in a profession requiring precision, such as carpentry or engineering. The cherrywood tokens hinted at a hobbyist's patience, someone who took pride in craftsmanship. Crucially, the killer's choice of locations, theater, barn, church, implied a fixation on spaces meant for gathering, now corrupted into stages for private horror. "He's punishing them for existing in his world," Mercer noted. Their only crime was being visible. Voyle combed through missing persons reports, cross-referencing them with property records near the crime scenes. A name surfaced: Walter Harlow, a 47-year-old clockmaker who owned the barn where Damien Cole was found. Harlow had no criminal record, but his workshop, visited under the guise of a routine inspection, contained cherrywood shavings and half-finished marionettes. The breakthrough came from an overlooked detail: the ink on the postcard. Chemical analysis traced it to a discontinued brand used by Vermont's public libraries in the 1980s. Eleanor Grant had worked part-time reshelving books at Hollowbrook Library. A search of employee records revealed Walter Harlow had volunteered there as a teen, a connection buried for decades. Surveillance of Harlow's workshop uncovered nocturnal trips to a storage unit. Inside, investigators found a macabre diorama, photographs of the victims, blueprints of the crime scenes, and a ledger labeling each token: A for actor, B for backstage, C for chorus. Harlow had been rehearsing. His arrest was anticlimactic. On November 30th, as snow blanketed Hollowbrook, Voyle and a SWAT team surrounded Harlow's home. He answered the door holding a marionette, its face carved to resemble Voyle. "You're late for the curtain call," he murmured, before surrendering silently. Harlow's trial revealed a chilling narrative. Orphaned at 10, he'd been raised by a cruel uncle who forced him to perform in traveling puppet shows. The tokens corresponded to roles he'd been made to play. The victims, he claimed, were replacements for his childhood tormentors. Psychiatrists diagnosed him with schizoid personality disorder and delusions of grandeur, but he was deemed fit to stand trial. Convicted on 3 counts of murder, Harlow received life without parole. The case reshaped forensic protocols. Hollowbrook's police department adopted Mercer's profiling techniques, integrating psychological analysis into every major investigation. The tokens, now archived in Quantico, serve as grim teaching tools for new agents. For Voyle, the legacy was personal. He retired in 2003, haunted by Harlow's final words to him, "You'll always wonder who holds your strings." The Silent Strings case underscores the duality of human obsession, the fine line between artistry and atrocity. Harlow's pathology wasn't born in a vacuum. It was forged in neglect and nurtured by silence. Profiling, once dismissed as speculative, proved indispensable in mapping the terrain of his mind. Yet the case also exposes an uncomfortable truth. Killers like Harlow thrive in the gaps of human connection. His victims, random to the world, were intimately tied to his fractured reality. To prevent such horrors, we must confront not only the crimes themselves, but the invisible wounds that breed them. In the end, the strings were never about control. They were a cry for acknowledgement, a puppet master's plea to be seen as something more than a ghost in the wings.